Hello and welcome to Hawk Talk, episode 14 here with the Monmouth University Athletics Department. And my guest this evening, appropriately enough, in her fifth season at Monmouth, but 14th as a Division I head coach. And we say good evening to Shannon Salsburg. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Coach, I'm well, thank you. The weather's getting nice. It's starting to feel a little bit like summer. And before we talk any softball, before we talk anything about your program, I have to ask how you and how your family are doing.
I appreciate that. We're doing great. I mean, we've been very fortunate. We're safe. We're at home. We're getting a little extra bonding time, which has been great. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they are keeping me busy writing their birthday list. One is in August and one is June, so I'll give her that. But so we have been actively searching for those gifts. But no, it's been good. It's everything that happens, there's blessings, and this has been a blessing to have this time with them as they grow. And so we're safe, we're sound. Hopefully you're well as well. And here we go.
Coach, I appreciate that. And it's good to hear because we're used to seeing your family around the office, around the ballpark. So now that you guys are all home, I'm sure, as we were just talking before and getting ready for this, you'd love to be out in the field with them right now, I'm sure.
Oh, man, I love it. Anna has been known to take a little BP before some games. So, I miss seeing them there, watching them run up in the first or second inning and the big smiles. And I miss their interactions with our team. I mean, they have, 18, 19, 20 sisters every year. So miss those things, no doubt. But, health is the number one, and we get it. And now we're just trying to make the absolute best out of the time that we have together.
If you have a question for Shannon Salsburg, you can submit it into our Facebook live chat, and I'll make sure to ask the soon-to-be fifth-year head coach at Monmouth University that question. Coach Salsburg and her program have they were one of the teams that were in season and we're getting ready to enter league play. So, Coach, as we kind of begin our conversation tonight, and I know everyone who was in season when the news about school being moved remotely and the coronavirus came about, curious how you and your team, how that news was broken to you, and then how those first few kind of chaotic days unfolded.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was pretty wild. We actually the weekend before, we were on our way to George Washington. I received an email from Maryland saying, when you go through the line, make sure you don't hit hands. So that was the beginning of understanding that this might be a little bit more than what we had realized. So we went through, we hit elbows, and did that at George Washington, and we were traveling back, and we were talking a little bit about it. Took a day off, came back to the office on Tuesday, and all of a sudden there was a lot of conversation with our administration. And it started off pretty simple, just sat our team down and just made sure that, we had a tournament that following weekend. We wanted to make sure that they were okay to travel. We try to be very respectful. I think that's one of the great things we do at Monmouth is, we worry a lot about our student athletes. And, we wanted to make sure that if someone was uncomfortable, that we had that conversation. We gave them, each and every young lady on our team, the opportunity to consider not traveling if they weren't comfortable. And to be honest, we had 2 or 3 that weren't sure. We were still in such a state of what the heck is going on. And so we had that conversation. Then we went to practice and, turned around the next day, had a team meeting and basically just revisited, do we want to travel or do we not? The kids went home. They were supposed to call their parents. I told them, hey, listen, we're supposed to practice in an hour. Why don't you take 2-3 hours? Let's reconvene. About 45 minutes later, I spoke with Jeff Stapleton, and he said, Shannon, it's a wrap. Like we're being shut down. So I called them back because it was so important to me that they heard it from us, and in particular from me. I knew that we had some young ladies who were going to be devastated, and a lot of people that just weren't sure what was really going on. So we brought them back probably within the hour and had the conversation, which I've had a couple hard ones, and that's at the top of the list.
The way that it happened, like you said, and kind of the speed at which it unfolded, it's going to affect any team. But your group specifically, coming off 2 straight championships, getting ready to make a run at a third, it's fitting that you ended the season with a win because that's all your team has done the last couple of years is indeed win. But the fact that your team had so many players who wanted to go for another championship, did it make that conversation even that much more difficult?
It did. And in particular, I mean, it was difficult for every young lady. And I don't want to, every kid brings something to our program and to our team. But in particular for those seniors, at that time, they didn't know, are we going to be given an opportunity to come back? Are we not? So all they heard was the season's over, my career's over. And the looks on their face, to be honest with you, Eddie, I don't think it really hit them. And now speaking to them later, it didn't really set in until probably an hour later that this is it. So it was just a lot of blank stares. Actually, Sam Tomasetti, our shortstop, said, Coach, can we have a moment as a team? I said, absolutely. And we let them kind of meet with the team. And that's really when the tears started. And we just tried to support them on the way out. And at the same time, we were trying to figure out what's our next step. We were standing in the hallway talking to administrators about how quickly did the kids have to get off campus? How do we help facilitate them getting home? Are they okay? I mean, there were a zillion things happening. It was just a tough day all the way around.
And while that was going on, simultaneously, we were all down at the basketball tournament, and I felt removed from what was happening on campus, and we were feeling for everyone who was going through it. So now everyone goes home, and I guess my first question is, how are your staff kind of keeping tabs with the program, with the players? How are the players since going home and doing the rest of the spring semester remotely and now into their summer workouts and summer studies online?
Yeah, everybody's doing really well. We just made a point to stay connected, and we did that in a lot of ways. This Zoom meeting thing is pretty cool, right? So this is a new thing for me that we're going to use. I love it. I love to see their faces, and it just helps us really understand their emotions and what they're sharing with us. And so we had Zoom meetings, and we met as a team. We met in smaller groups just to make sure that people had an opportunity to speak and let us know how they were doing. We continued to check in particular, Marissa, my assistant, checked in on the academic side, and, we did fantastic online. I love to do softball and online if we have to, but, I was very proud of their academics this year. And then just texting and calling, the things that we would be doing on a normal basis if the season was happening.
Questions are starting to come in for Shannon Salsburg, and if you have a question for the Monmouth head softball coach, please submit it into our Facebook live chat, and I'll make sure to ask Coach Salsburg. And our first question comes in, Lynn from Jackson, again a regular contributor here on our Hawk Talk series. Lynn wants to ask Coach about something Coach knows very well, and that's the NCAA tournament and appearing in NCAA regionals. And Coach, the question comes in, why do you think that NCAA softball has such a tremendous appeal to fans and viewers on television, and what makes the game at the NCAA level so exciting?
I'll tell you, that's an awesome question. I mean, we're one of their top championships, and that's the reason why 10 years ago you saw us on maybe ESPN2, and now it's just blown up and we're on every channel. I think it's the quick pace. I think it's an exciting game. I think if you understand a sport like baseball, but now you've sped it up to an hour and a half, I think people really like that. We have a ton of offense in the game. Short porch, you can hit a lot of home runs, which we enjoy doing. But you can also have a very dominant pitcher. We're throwing from 43 feet. And, for instance, our pitcher, Alyssa, she throws 63, which is basically the equivalent of like a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball. So it's just a super quick game. It's high energy. I think the other thing that we do in softball is we allow our girls to play with emotion. And you can see it, there's not something hiding our girls. So you get to see the energy and the excitement on each and every play.
Hey, Coach, that's a tremendous point that you bring up. The growth of the game has been remarkable to watch. You, I think, called it perfectly. Maybe years ago, there was maybe the super regionals, maybe the end of the tournament were on ESPN2, like you said. But now, on just a typical Saturday in the spring or Sunday, you go on a variety of ESPN channels. We're no different broadcasting softball doubleheaders, and there is action all over the country on. Have you noticed the growth of that game that we've seen on the broadcast level throughout the youth level as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, girls, know our players from your broadcasts. I mean, they can hop on the app, and all of a sudden you're watching Monmouth in California. I mean, it's just been awesome, and you can just see people connecting. Our professional game isn't quite what we wanted it to be. It's struggled for the last 15 years to really get itself rolling, and so our college athletes being in their homes every weekend. Those are the kids that now these young ladies are growing up looking up to and talking about and emulating. And so it's a lot of fun. We see at our level when we do the youth camps, and then they come back to run out with us and watch our girls play. And they're talking about Kayla Rosato's home run or Alyssa Iron's drop ball. And, it's just exciting because it's such a unique way to connect all the different people interested in softball and growing the game. And those kids are just as important as our players because they're that next generation of amazing players.
And I think your point and your perspective on this is an interesting one because you'll be entering your fifth season at Monmouth, but that's when you moved to New Jersey was when you came here to Monmouth. So let's talk about that for a second. The Short Conference is a tremendous league. New Jersey softball is indeed among the strongest in the country. So since you've come east, come to Monmouth and kind of gotten acclimated and familiar with New Jersey and the Northeast, you've seen it everywhere. How do you rate the softball around here?
I'll tell you, I used to fly into New Jersey to recruit, whether I was at the University of Arkansas, Kent State, Bowling Green, it didn't matter. So now to have those kids in our backyard is fantastic. Probably the first thing we did as a program is establish that if you're a New Jersey player, we have interest. And it started off a little shaky. It took a second for people to buy into this crazy lady from the Midwest saying, yeah, we want New Jersey kids at Monmouth. And now, we've got a freshman class of 6 and 4 are Jersey kids. And I mean, top quality kids. So we're really excited about the growth of the game around here, but also that we can now connect and keep those kids local. And, the high school kids can come and watch, or the younger youth kids that grew up watching, a kid like Devin Koya hit bombs down in South Jersey. All of a sudden next year she's in New Jersey. And kids are coming to Monmouth games. So it's an exciting time for us.
If you want to submit a question to Shannon Salsburg, again, please put it into our Facebook live chat. And Coach, as that conversation it kind of evolves, one of the things that everyone that covers this Monmouth softball program has noticed within the last few years, it's kind of a few things hand in hand. It's a lot of winning. It's a lot of enthusiasm, a tremendous culture within your program. But like you said, you scroll down that roster now and you're seeing New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, in addition to some other student athletes spread out all over the country. So was that an effort that you wanted to intentionally make? Is it just how it worked out? How did the whole thing kind of go about? Because it's resulted in a whole bunch of winning.
Well, I'll tell you, it started simply because our first year here, we inherited a quality team, and we had a lot of young ladies from out of state, and we had no fans. So these kids were playing some really good softball, and there was really no one there to support them. And so as we sat down and really kind of adjusted what our plan was going to be, it was just really important to me that we have, we talk all the time about family. Well, we need that family connected in the stands and around the ballpark to continue to enhance and grow our program. And that enthusiasm piece, as I get excited when we're playing softball. I want our team excited. I want that energy and that vibe when we play. And I think a huge part of that is because we do have families now there. And for our out-of-state kids, Katie Harrington from Minnesota, she's got 17 families who take her in. And if she can't make it home for Thanksgiving, she goes there, all that fun stuff. But I think it's really helped grow the culture of what my vision was for this program, which is family first. And just, growing that atmosphere of support for our young ladies.
And it was one that everyone associated with the Monmouth University Community and Athletics Department noticed, kind of right away with Coach coming in. The last 2 full seasons have resulted in NCAA regional trips, and it's been a pretty remarkable experience. So, Coach, as we kind of look back, Knoxville in 2018, Baton Rouge last year, going to some SEC competition and making a great account of your program and in the university. How do you, it's hard to ask me, or hard to ask you, if you want to pick one, but how were those 2 experiences compared to you going to regionals in the past at your previous locations?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think each experience has been so different. My first time going to regionals, I was at the University of Arkansas, and it was just expected. It's what you did. It's, you go, you play the SEC tournament, regardless, you're going to the tournament. And so, from there at Kent State, I had the opportunity to help the program get back to regionals for the first time in over 20 years. So that was a lot of fun to see those kids really push the boundaries of where they could be. And then to come here and have the opportunity to, take over a program that I thought was so close and to continue to help them to believe in themselves enough to get to that next step was a lot of fun. Our first time in Tennessee, I joke all the time, but I was the only person who ever been in a dugout at regionals. So, when you want to talk about wild energy, there were nerds, there were people people are jumping off the wall, and I didn't know what was happening because they hadn't done it for 58 games. And I told Marissa, I said, everybody's got to take a deep breath or we're in trouble. And they did, and we had a better second game there. Now, last year was different because they had been there and they trusted themselves and they understood that this is what we've been planning for, and this is why we do our preseasons the way we do, and all the competition led them to a belief that they could win. And while we came up short in both games, we could have won either one. And so it was just an exciting thing. I think as a coach, the number one thing that gets you excited is not necessarily win or loss. It's watching your kids go from not even thinking about something to believing they can actually achieve it. And that's really where our program came in a very short time.
And those games, as Coach mentioned, you look back at it, 2-0 to number 10 LSU, 1-0 to Louisiana Tech, like Coach mentioned, just to be in those games. So many times the winner of a one-bid league goes and they play and they have a great experience. But to go now with the expectations that you want to compete, Coach, how do you take this program from where it was to now where it is with the expectation to go to regionals and win games?
Well, I'll tell you, we have some great examples in our hallway, right? I share an office with women's soccer. You want to talk about a group that understands how to continue to achieve at the highest level and fight all the demons that come along with that. So I get an opportunity each and every day to watch a fantastic coaching staff help their kids continue to achieve. And we get to pick their brains and do all those fun things. I think, I think at the end of the day, we talked about at the beginning of the season, is that, on the outside, people might think, oh, they don't have much to do or to gain. And really, we have yet to achieve what we want to. We want to win regionals. And we're not afraid to say it because, we're trying to be the absolute best that we can be. So our goal has never been a MAC tournament and to win that title. It's been that next step. And so we still have so far to come or so far to go. We've got to find a way to win that first game at regionals and then go from there. It's a lot of fun to watch. And like I said, there's a lot of our climb left, and that's the exciting part for us.
Something that Coach alluded to earlier is the subject of our next question, and it comes in from Joe Compagni. And Coach, Joe wants to know what you think about Athletes Unlimited and the plans to start a pro softball league for this coming August.
Yeah, I hope they have an opportunity to do it. I think, with all the pro leagues, I think the opportunity to continue to play the sport that these kids love, I'm all for. I think it's fantastic. I hope that we can find ways to have backing and opportunities for the kids that will stay around. I think that's always been our struggle is what is the right time? So starting a league in August could really be the answer. But it's just been a tough road to find a way to continue to fund our leagues. So hopefully it works. I would love it. I'd love to send Monmouth kids on to continue to play, because I know that there are kids who would like to. There just aren't always the greatest opportunities.
The questions continue to come in for Shannon Salsburg. Again, if you want to submit your question, put it into our Facebook Live chat, and we'll make sure to convey it to the Monmouth head softball coach. Coach kind of mentioned earlier when she got to Monmouth, the idea of looking inside New Jersey for the recruiting, as so many coaches at Monmouth University do. And, Coach, how has that recruiting now gone as we enter, it's a different phase now and everything's being done remotely. So to begin that conversation, ask how it's looking moving forward. And really, my first question to you, what would you be expecting a potential recruit to be doing right now while we're all kind of working and learning from home?
Well, I'll tell you, across the country, obviously, people are starting at different times. I think right now is a great opportunity for young ladies to invest in themselves. At the end of the day, I was talking to a travel coach the other day, and I said, what a great time to remind your girls why they play, which isn't for the scholarship or all these other things. It's because they love the game and they want to see how far they can push their talents. So, daily, we're getting emails of young ladies doing videos of hitting and pitching and throwing and all these things. And now games are starting up in other parts of the country. So people are traveling. I'm not really sure all the rules on all that, but, people are starting to travel and play. And so, I think, though, if girls can remember why they started, which is the true love of the game, it's not to go to the next level. It's to play the game that they love. If they can find that, then this time is going to be such a blessing as they push their talents to wherever that next step is.
Question coming in for Shannon Salsburg, and it comes in. Jeff from Eatontown is taking part in our Hawk Talk this evening. And Coach, he wants to speak about the pitching. Monmouth had some terrific frontline starting pitching in your time. Amanda Riley, Alyssa Irons, there's so many just strong, solid pitchers. Why is that so important, and what specifically makes your aces the last few years so tough?
Well, I tell you, really mentally tough, really tough kids. I mean, a pitcher has to have super thick skin and be able to get to that next pitch. Every pitcher in the NCAA is going to give up a home run when they don't want to. And it's, what are you going to do with it next? I think right now in Alyssa, we have somebody who can just let it go and get next. And she trusts her teammates, and she goes and simply does her job. Amanda Riley was one of the most mentally tough young ladies I've ever coached. That last year, the first year we won a championship, she literally was determined in that MAC tournament to make sure we were going to win. From there, what we do is we really focus not only on how you throw a pitch, but where we actually want it. Oftentimes when young ladies come to us, they don't quite understand the collegiate zone that we want to pitch. So they throw a curveball and it's at the hips. We really need it at the knees, actually a little lower than the knees. So just those adjustments are the things that I think, we've been pretty good at in terms of getting our girls to understand where we need the pitch. And a lot of times we're trying to feed the ball to our stellar defense. So we want to make sure, if it's a power hitter and we're putting it outside, to feed our second baseman who's got some of the best hands we've ever coached, in DeAngie. So pitching's the name of the game.
You mentioned some of the stellar defense behind those great pitchers. There's tremendous, powerful offense with your teams. I guess, coaches like to say they put an emphasis on something.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you that, but it's difficult because your team seems to execute in every single aspect of the game. But what's the thing that you pride your program on the most?
I'll tell you, it is our offense and just putting pressure on people. I mean, we're going to try to double you to death, which sometimes leads to some really nice home runs. But, if we can double, we're scoring a lot of runs. We want to be we're super aggressive on the bases. And that's probably one of the most disappointing things for me when the season ended, in terms of what people didn't get to see in our team, is it was a different level of aggressiveness. Our stolen bases were up, our aggressiveness on the bases. We were pushing people, making them make extra throws. I think it was going to be a really exciting time when we came home this year. So we were kind of locked and loaded offensively to really kind of push that to a whole new level. But definitely offense. If you can hit, you're going to find a way on that field.
That's one of those skills that if you can do it, you're going to play. If you can hit, you're always going to find a spot in the lineup.
You got it. We can always adjust later in the game and get a little defense out there, but let's hit the ball a little bit.
Coach, that point you make is so interesting. I'll never forget one of the first ESPN games that we did with you as the head coach of the softball program. I remember talking to you, getting ready for the game. I remember making a mistake, looking down while I thought a play was over, and then I looked up and there was more chaos happening. I've never made that mistake twice, I'll tell you that.
All right. Good for you. We will definitely make that you pay on that.
If you have a question for Shannon Salsburg, again, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. I'll make sure to get that question over to Coach. You mentioned it, how this season was going, and I know that you have built a tremendous culture, and you're a big fan, as we all are, of your student athletes. But what about this group who unfortunately had their season cut short? Did you like the most, whether it's on the field, off the field? What about this year's team with the abbreviated season did you like the most?
I think just their belief in each other. You talked about the fact that we finished on a win. And the night before, we had one of the longest team meetings we've ever had. We had some really nice things happen during our preseason. We beat Purdue, we beat Maryland, so we're 2-0 in the Big Ten. We had a couple other really nice wins against some teams like USC Upstate, who's perennially a very good mid-major, goes to regionals a lot. And, so we had done a lot of good things, but we just hadn't quite jived yet. Like, we weren't just there yet. And, the girls, I gave them a couple of questions to kind of share with each other. And I thought it was going to be like an hour thing. Bruce and I sat up. We waited for them to finish up. It took them 4 hours to kind of work through. And you could just see that whatever was kind of holding us back, they worked through. And what am I proud of? I'm proud of the fact that they were willing to share and they were willing to open up and allow themselves to be vulnerable for the good of our group. And that's something we've worked a lot on is we all have something to give, but sometimes we got to let down a barrier to let that happen. And I'll tell you, you could see it at G-Dub. And I looked at Marissa, I said, we're ready. There's always a hurdle. Sometimes it's your hitting, sometimes it's your defense. This year was a little bit about coming back together and trust and a lot of different things. But at that G-Dub game was the team that was going to make one heck of a run towards all the goals that we had, period.
As the questions come in for Shannon Salsburg, I remind you that if you missed any of our conversation here this evening or any of our prior Hawk Talks, that they are archived on monmouthhawks.com, as well as in the video tab right here on the Athletics Facebook page, as well as youtube.com/monmouthhawks. We have a question coming in, Coach, and it's an out-of-state question. I know we're digital right now, but we have a question coming in from Terry Harrington, who I believe has a tie to the program.
Yes, I think so.
And he's actually relaying a question from Katie. And Katie wants to know if Coach, you are doing gassers next season.
Oh, dear Lord. Now, listen. So I'm getting myself into shape, but I've done my time. So you can let Katie know I'm good, Terry. No, but, I'll work out a little bit more. I've been working to get back into shape, ready to go. But gassers, I'm good. But I'll throw 2 extra in just for you, Katie, just for you.
It is funny when Katie was coming to Monmouth, a mutual colleague of all of ours was working out in Minnesota and put it on Twitter. Hey, guys, heads up, look who's coming to Monmouth. And before we knew it, Katie was here making a great impact in a couple championship teams. So we appreciate them viewing our Hawk Talk here this evening. Next question comes in. Kate, who's in Seattle, wants to know, Coach, what you're most looking forward to next season and who is going to take advantage of their extra year of eligibility?
Oh, that's a great question. What I am looking forward most next year is, every year is a new team. I think a lot of people are going to think that we're rebuilding, and we're not. We're reloading. We're going to be excited, ready to go. There are going to be some new parts, but it's going to be the same Monmouth softball. So we're really excited about that. As for who's returning, 4 of our young ladies are moving on. We are very fortunate to have quality kids who had jobs lined up. So Sam Tomasetti got her dream job, so she's off. Amanda, who is a nursing major, and talk about incredible to be a student athlete and do nursing at Monmouth. One of the most incredible things I've ever seen. She's lined up. I've sent in my reference. She's ready to go, so she's got a job. Amber is in the middle of kind of finalizing some jobs. And then Kayla Rosado was interested in coming back, but unfortunately she is a marine biology major and she does not have anything that she could study. So she's going to go and be a graduate transfer down at Coastal Carolina. And I couldn't be more happy for her. If she couldn't be here, she's going to a quality program. She's actually going to someone who I've known a long time. And, I kind of help facilitate some of the conversation, and I'm very proud of her and excited to see her grow. We are supposed to play Coastal next year, so we will not be pitching to her. For all those wondering, let's just get that out of the way. She's not seeing a pitch. We might roll the ball. I don't know. But so those 4 are taking off. Tommy, who was transferred for us last year, she's going to return and play, and she's a big stick. We're excited about that. She had a couple of big hits for us in the very short season. And then DeAngie's going to come back at second base. So we're excited to have her hands back and, just someone who's been with us for 4 years and kind of knows what we do.
Well, not only to have DeAngie back at second base, we're excited to have her back as hopefully part of the Monmouth Digital Network again, because when she wasn't fielding and doing a great job for you, she was on our crew and did a great job.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, to be honest, every time I need to do anything video or technological, that's what I call. That's my girl.
If you have a question for Shannon Salsburg, again, please submit it into our Facebook live chat. And our next question comes in. The last few have been from out west and in the middle of the country. This one's back in our neighborhood. And Kelly, who is in Wall, Coach, wants to know, as you were growing up as a student athlete yourself, when did you realize that you wanted to get into coaching?
Oh my gosh. Well, my dad was a coach my entire life. So he coached wrestling, football. He coached every sport. He even tried softball one year, and a girl cried on him. He called me and said, I can't handle this. So he went back to guys. But he kind of, I grew up around teams. I always had a team over at the house, hanging out. I had a bunch of big brothers my entire life. So I actually, according to my mother, now I don't remember this, but according to my mother, in fourth grade, I told my teacher I was going to be a coach. And she said, no, really, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm the coach. And if you know me, I'm stubborn. So apparently I was very strong with it. And my mom said, no, relax a little. But apparently fourth grade is the answer. As I grew up and as I played, I was always kind of the coach on the field. It was just a very natural thing to get into coaching. And I love it. I love it. I wouldn't do anything else.
So building off of that, and I'm curious now, our boss, Vice President, Director of Athletics, Dr. Marilyn McNeil, she was a coach before moving into the world of administration. So everyone kind of has someone to look up to within our own department. Who were the coaching mentors in your life as you kind of progressed? You mentioned, I'm assuming Dad's one of them, but who were the other coaches that you learned from that when you had the opportunity to be a Division I coach, you could kind of look back on the lessons that you learned?
Yeah. I had so many great people, and that's one of the most fortunate things for me. A lot of strong coaches, a lot of strong females that helped me kind of grow. One that jumps right out to me is my boss at Arkansas, Carrie Deaver Boaz, was just someone who was willing to listen to her staff. We were always having meetings. She was always asking our opinions. She was really open to what we thought, and she would always consider it. The joke was, you can ask, and I might say no, but, just circle back because I'm going to think about it, and she was just such a strong person. And one of the things she really instilled in me that I'm so grateful now is I caught a lot of our pitchers at Arkansas, and I was not a catcher, and I had no interest in it, but she said, look, she called me Saul. She said, Saul, listen, if you ever end up at a school and you got to help with your pitchers, you got to know what's up, man. And so I would catch and I would listen to her and hear her instructions, see her drills. And so she was really impactful. My boss at Kent State, Karen Linder, was just so good at managing her team. And even when it seemed like, man, we had lost our team, we weren't in it, she always kind of knew that next right thing to say or do. And it was just super impactful in my understanding of how to run an organization year in and year out and be successful. And she left Kent State as the winningest coach in the program's history. So she knew how to do it. So, I had many, many more. I don't want to shortchange anybody, but just those two jump right off the top of my head.
We go back to the questions for Shannon Salsburg, and the next question comes in. Another familiar last name, at least.
Oh, no.
Fernando Rosado is checking in. And Coach, Fernando wants to know about your philosophy when it comes to hitting, and who is your biggest influence in the game of softball?
Oh, that's a great question. My philosophy is that we're going to find hitters that we believe can come into our program, and we're going to tweak. We're not going to rebuild. We actually start a little different approach, which is we want our kids to understand, number one, what a strike is, number two, what their zone is, and then we start to break down from there. I think a lot of times people start with technique and kind of lose their way and confuse the kids, and then kids get into the batter's box and the ball is here, there, and everywhere, and they don't think it's a strike, and they won't swing. So we kind of go backwards, and that seems to be a little bit more of a trend now in the college game, is learn the zone, understand what my zone is, and then tweak your swing. From a hitting standpoint, I grew up watching baseball. I love Ken Griffey. I if I could have been left-handed, it's ugly, so it could never have happened. But I loved watching Ken Griffey swing the bat and drop it. Amazing. And even I was an Indians fan growing up, so everyone should feel sorry for me. But Albert Bell, who was a wild guy, but man, he could flat out rake. I actually have a ball from him. He was another guy because he took his swing. So I grew up trying to hit the ball as far as I possibly could. And he wasn't afraid to strike out, and I think you'll see our team, we have our fair amount of strikeouts, but, if that's going to be our out, then that next swing is going to be a good one.
It's interesting, and Fernando went on to ask, by the way, or not even ask, but he said, kind of tipping his hand here. He said, if you want to throw at Kayla next year, he understands, but, he understands the sportsmanship.
Yeah, no, we'll just roll it. If we can just pretend to throw 4 balls, we will. We might throw one behind her, but just one. We won't hit her. I like her too much.
Well, and Coach, and your second part to that answer, I think, was spot on. And, I think everyone, especially now we're at home and there's old games on all the time, and I grew up a Yankee fan, but I don't think there was anything sweeter than Ken Griffey Jr.'s left-handed sweet swing. I wanted to see it in pinstripes forever, never got my wish.
Sorry. Yeah, it was the prettiest swing I've ever seen.
If you have a question for Coach Salsburg, again, please get it into our Facebook Live chat. And if, again, you missed any of our conversation here this evening, you can watch it in a variety of ways back in our archives. Coach, you mentioned some of your coaching influences. You mentioned you watch a lot of baseball as well. But as you kind of look back, were there athletes, and I know you threw a few out, Griffey and Albert Bell, but who were the athletes, maybe even out of the world of baseball and softball, that you looked up to when either you were competing or now that you're coaching?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. You might have stumped me here. Goodness gracious. Man, I'm not sure. I think I might have given you my two. I think one of the unique things now about athletes in general, and I think it's somebody like LeBron James, the ability to connect on social media and impact so many lives, I think is incredible. So I think just in general, this generation of athletes have such a great platform to do so many amazing things that maybe when we were growing up, our guys couldn't do. They got to go home and hide. So I guess that's a good thing on their end. But, we didn't have that same impact that these guys do now. So I think of in our game, people like Kat Osterman, who's gone out and done amazing things, or Jenny Finch, Lisa Fernandez, and I think that their impact on our game and female athletes in general has been pretty spectacular.
Coach, one of the things that I always am curious of, you've come to Monmouth, you've built a consistent winner with a tremendous culture. You mentioned some of your colleagues in the athletics department who have done kind of the same. But now address kind of, in your opinion, the future of Monmouth softball, whether it's speaking to a potential recruit, it's speaking to their parents, speaking to, just a fan of the university, kind of lay out your vision for the future of Monmouth softball.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We tell recruits all the time, we're kind of an open book. If a young lady decides to be a Hawk, a couple of things. One, they're truly going to a family. They're going to be taken care of not only by our staff and by their teammates, but by our department. I mean, we have one of the greatest leaders, in my opinion, in the NCAA, and Dr. McNeil. And it starts at the top for her in terms of how we treat our student athletes. So they're going to have a great experience. They're going to go on campus and have professors who really care about them and care about their growth in their academic field, and it's just going to be a program where we're going to be straightforward with you. You're going to understand where you stand. I think one of the things, and one of the growths for me as a head coach, my days at Bowling Green, sometimes I had a hard time having the tough conversation, and I'm sure my players now would be shocked to hear me say that. But, I just find the more straightforward your truth can be, the easier it is to work through and continue forward. And that's really what family does, right? We tell each other the truth. So I would say just a group that's going to take care of you, a group that you're going to come, you're going to be pushed, you're going to grow. We're going to hopefully convince you of those crazy goals that we have as this little program in New Jersey, but we plan on achieving them.
Question coming in, Coach, and this is a really interesting one. The question comes in, it asks about your personality as a coach on the field and how that seems to translate to the program. You show your emotion on the field. You mentioned you like your players doing that. Also, your teams seem to have a lot of fun. Do those two things kind of go hand in hand?
They absolutely go hand in hand. I figure we've done the hard work at practice. We should be prepared for those games. So now's the fun part. They get to go and they've got to play. And, we as a program, one of the things that we've really grown is that every game really matters. It's an opportunity, and I think now more than ever, we understand every time they get to put on the uniform, it's another opportunity to play this amazing game. So I want us to have high energy and be all in and be there for each other. I think I coach how I played. I was a high energy, high emotion person. You know what you get, and you know how I feel. But hopefully it helps energize our team when we need it, or hopefully we have girls that want to share that energy and that excitement for what we do. I just think we're so lucky to have the job that we have, or to lace up for the Hawks when our girls get to do that. And so it's such a blessing and such an awesome opportunity. I don't want to miss a second. And I also think, and this is true, I think that oftentimes people look in our dugout and think, how in the world did they win, right? It's crazy. It's chaos. We've got bamboo everywhere. There's people up and down. We've got Star Wars happening, all these things. But our kids are able to be themselves. And I think we get the best them when they're themselves. So we're very proud of our crazy culture. It is organized chaos 100%.
Well, Coach, I know I speak for everyone behind the scenes here. We can't wait to be out at the field again, broadcasting a Monmouth softball game as soon as we can next year. And again, from all of us here behind the scenes, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes here tonight. Good to hear that the family's well, continued health. And again, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
That is Shannon Salsburg, the head softball coach at Monmouth University. Again, if you missed our conversation tonight or any of our Hawk Talk conversations, please visit MonmouthHawks.com for the complete archive, as well as right here on Facebook and on YouTube. For the entire crew behind the scenes with the Monmouth Digital Network, I'm Eddie Acapinti saying good night here on Hawk Talk.